welcome to today's lesson, which is on cumulative frequency graphs. Now, with these, I always think it's best just to get stuck in with some past paper questions, because the past paper questions basically go through everything that you need to know for cumulative frequency graphs. Now, the first thing that we need to know is the way a cumulative frequency graph is laid out. Now, the way I like to think about it is the word cumulative. So the way I think about it is like cumulative, the first part, cumula, it's a little bit like community or things like that. It basically means the running total. Cumulative means the running total, or bringing things together. So if I have a look at this first graph here, I'll make this big for you so you can see it. So here we've got our graph here, and it says the table represents the ages of 240 people at a club, and then they've got the ages there and the frequency. So complete the cumulative frequency table below. Now notice you don't always get that, but with this one here, they've actually showed you what the cumulative parts are. So it's between 15 and then 20. I'll show you with a mouse. So it's between 50 and 20. Then it's between 15 and 25. Then it's between 15 and 30. So you're finding the running total of all of these things. Okay? So this is the way that we need to set it out. So let's have a look at this first one then. So part A. So part A says to complete the frequency table. Now remember, it's the running total. So you can either think about just adding them up, or you can add the previous one as we go along. You'll see what I mean as I go through. So here, I've got my table, like so. And they want the age, and that's going to be in years. We've got the frequency over here. So we've got the frequency of each class width. So we know the frequency between 15 and 20. We know the frequency between 20 and 25. But when we're doing the cumulative frequency, we're combining those together. So we've got the first one, which is 15 is less than or equal to t is less than 20. And we know the frequency in that one is 95. So then when we're doing the cumulative, we're going to bring between 50 and 25. So between 15 and 25 is going to be the 15 and 20, which is 95, plus the 20 and 25, which is 90. So we're doing 90, so you can see that on here. So 90 plus the 95 plus the 90, which in this case is equal to 185. So cumulative, you're bringing those together. So the next one's going to be between 15 and 30. So right up to the next limit. So with this one, we're now going to bring 95, 90 and 35 together. So 95 plus 90 plus 35 is equal to 220. Remember, we're bringing them together. Next up, we're going to be looking at 15 all the way up to 35. Okay, so 15 to 35 is going to be 95 plus 90 plus 35 plus 15. So all of those coming together now. And then the next one is between 15 is less than t is less than 40. And that's going to be all of them together now, because the range of this is between, the lowest is 15, the highest is 40. So we're bringing all of these together. Now I'm going to add these up, but we know that the total should be 240 anyway, don't we? So 95 plus 90 plus 35 plus 15 plus the 5 at the end, which is equal to 240, which makes sense because there's 5 between there and there. So we're bringing these together. That's the whole point. So that's that first part done. So the next part says, on the grid, draw a cumulative frequency graph for your table. Now, I've decided to do this on square paper and line paper, because I know that a lot of you might not have square paper at home. So you can do it on this. There's no reason why we can't. If you're doing it at home, make sure you're using a pencil and a ruler. I'm going to be using a pen. Now you might say, oh, why are you using a pen, Mr. Adams? But that's because I can rub mine out, because mine's a whiteboard pen. Okay, so you use a pencil to stop yourself from making mistakes. Now, notice the total here is 240. Now, one of the hard parts of this is knowing what we go up by each time. But 240, well, 60 goes into that. You could pick 20, you could pick 40, but I'm going to pick 60 because that is 60 is, that's only 4 lines, isn't it? Maybe I won't pick that one. Maybe I'll pick 40 because 40 goes in 6 times. And how many have I got here? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So just about enough space here. So I'll do this one. So let's make sure you can see that. So I'll do it in blue so you can see that it's different. Now this one here, every time I do it, people find this really easy and straightforward. But the issue with this is remembering how to do it, and you're only going to start remembering how to do it by keeping practicing it, because there are so many different questions that are so similar to this. This could be mean from a group frequency, it could be a histogram, it could be a pie chart. You've got to know all of your different tables, so it's worth practicing them all together. So here, I've got to go across to 40 from 15, so I might go up in 5s. So 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. Yeah, I'm going to go across in 5. So I'm going to do 2 centimetres for every one now. So maybe I'll do a bit more actually. I can probably do the inches, can't I? It doesn't matter how you space it out, as long as everything's uniform and as long as you're making sure that everything's the same width. So I'm going to do 5 across, so I need to go to there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, brilliant. Let's make a mark. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, super. So on the left-hand side, I am starting at 0 and I'm going up in 40s, aren't I? So 0, 40, 80, 120, 160, 200 and 240, and I'm going to label that as cumulative frequency. At the bottom, we've got the age, haven't we? And this is going to be, what did I say I'm going up in? I'm going up in 5 starting at 15. So 5, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, up to the age of 40. Super. So there's my graph there. Perfect. Now, when you're doing this, there's a few things that you need to remember. Your lowest age or your lowest value is your starting point. Okay? So here, anything below 15, there's no frequency. So my starting point is going to be 15, 0 in this case. So 15, 0 is here, which actually works out well, 15, 0. And then once you do that, you're going to be using the upper bound of these, so all of these ones here. And the reason it's your upper bound is because you're doing the cumulative, so you're doing up to that point, up to that point, up to that point. So for here, it's between 15 and 20, and between 15 and 20, there's 95 people. So up to 20, there is 95 people. Now, my axis isn't great. If you have got more space, I would suggest making more space. So 20 up to 95. So halfway between that's going to be 100. So just below halfway. I'm going to use a ruler so I can see it. So up to 95, which is going to be about there. Super. The next one, upper bound, is 25. And it's going to be 25, 185. So let's go 25, 185. So up to 180, which is there, and a bit higher than that, which is there. Brilliant. Okay. The next one's going to be 30 and 220. So 30, 220, which is there. Next one we've got is 35 and 135, which is going to be roughly about there, just before we get to that one. And the last one is 40, 240, which is there. Okay. Now, the reason that we're doing from the upper bound is because it's everything between those points, and I want to really stress that because I want you to understand it. So this is everything between 50 and 20 is 95. Everything between 15 and 25 is 185. Everything between 15 and 30 is 220. So you've got to really think about those. Now there's 2 different ways you can do this, okay? You can either connect it with a curve like that and do the curve. Now don't feather it, it has to be one smooth line. okay? Or you can use a ruler to connect these. Now, this is really the only time where you can use both options. You can use a line, you can use a curve. And most times, if it's a frequency polygon, you have to use a ruler. If you're doing a histogram, you have to use a ruler. So this is one of the only times where you can actually try and use a curve. If you're doing this online, maybe on Dr. Frost or even Hegarty Maths, you will be expected to connect these points up with the line. Okay, so let's have a look at this one then. I'm going to do a curve here. So from a curve from this point, going up like this, making sure I'm going through all the points. Absolutely perfect. Now I start there, I'm ending there. I don't draw any other lines. Okay, super. So we've got our curve now, so that's another 3 marks. The next part says to estimate the median. Now, hey diddle diddle, the median's in the middle, so we're trying to find the middle person, the age of the middle person. Now remember, there's 240 people in this, so the middle person is going to be the 120th person. So in which case, the way I do this is I have 120 over here, and I've got to use a ruler to go across and down like so. So that there is an age of about between 21 and 22. I'm going to say that the median here, I'd say it's probably closer to 21. So I'm going to go, the median is equal to 21 years old. Or 21 years. Super. Okay, so we've got a lot going on there. We've got to do the running total of the upper bound. You've got to do the curve, making sure your axes are right. And then you've got to do the median as well. Now, if you're just watching this video, you are going to struggle with this if you do this exam. You've got to practice building and creating all of this stuff. Okay, so let's just check those answers. Brilliant. So look, 21, 22, that's nice. So they haven't got the frequency, but the frequency we know are there. We've got our curve, we've got our median. Absolutely perfect. Absolutely super. All right. So let's have a look at the next question. So what I'm going to suggest is pause now and have a go at these questions. The only thing we haven't done is the lower quartile and the D. So maybe do the first 2 parts yourself. Make sure you're feeling confident. Have a go at those now and pause and have a go at those. If you feel as if you knew how you were getting on with C and D, maybe go back and you can have a go at those yourself. I'm going to go through this one now with you so we can do it together. All right, so let's have a go at this first one. So this is from the IGCSE actually, from 2017. As I said, these questions do come up. There's a total of 1, 3, 4, 5, 6 marks here, which is quite a lot from the paper. So if you think about it, 6 out of 80 in one of these papers is just under, what is the 6 out of 80? 6 out of 80 is 7.5. So this is worth 7.5% of a whole of the paper, which is loads. That's the difference between a grade. So if you've got this right, you could potentially be moving up a whole grade. All right. So let's have a look at this one together then. So the first thing to do is the cumulative frequency table. So we're going to do that. Let's draw the table out. Remember, it's the running total. So here we're starting with 0 now instead of 15, which was the last one. So we've got our time here, which is in minutes. This one here is our cumulative frequency. Okay, my first one is between 0 and 20. So between 0 and 20, it's just 4. Between 0 and 40, remember you're bringing those first 2 together, it's going to be 4 plus 12, which is equal to 16. Between 0 and 60 is 4, 12, 26. So 4 plus 12 plus 26, which is equal to 42. between 0 and 80 is going to be 4 plus 12 plus 26 plus the 42 in this case, which in this case is 184. Between 0 and 100 is going to be 4 plus 12 plus 26 plus 42 plus another 12, which in this case is 96, and then an extra 4. Now remember to check the total, so this is up to 120 now, so all of these together is going to be 4 plus 12 plus 26 plus 42 plus 12 plus 4, which in total is going to be equal to 100. Brilliant. So this here is the running total of all of them. So collecting everything together all the way up to that total frequency, which is 100. Now they're asking us to draw the table. So what have we got to go up to here? We've got to go up to 100. So I'm going to go up in 20s. Let's do that here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is enough. Okay. So draw that to make sure you can see it. So, and then how far across do I need to go? I need to go from 0 to 120. So I'm going to go across in 20s again, using the inches on my ruler. So it doesn't matter what units you use, as long as they are evenly spaced. So I'm just going to use the inches on here. Notice I'm not using square paper. You can do this yourself at home. So 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120, and up by 20, so 0, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, brilliant. So this one here is my cumulative frequency, this one here is my time, super. Now, remember, our starting point is the lower bound here. So my lower bound of the first one is 0. So I'm starting at 0. So my first point is going to be 0, 0, which is there. Once I've done that, I'm using the upper bounds of these. So all of these upper bounds here. So the first one is 24. So that's really low. Not 24, as in the point 20 and 4. So 24 is going to be about there. I'll do this in red so you can see it. The next one's going to be 40 and 16. So 40, 16 is just about there. The next one's going to be 60 and 42. So 60, 42 is there. 80 and 84. So 80, 84. Now I'm going to use my ruler because it's quite high up. 80, 84 is somewhere about there. Brilliant. Between 100... Sorry, it's 196, so 196 is about there, and then 120 and 100 is going to be there. Remember, you can connect these with a straight line. If you're doing that online, that's what you should be doing. If not, you can do a curve if you want, making sure it's one smooth line, okay? There, brilliant. So I've got my curve, I've got my axes, absolutely super. So the next part says, find the lower quartile of the minutes. Now, the median's in the middle. If we've done box plots or if you've done upper and lower quartile of individual data, you'll know the lower quartile is the lower quarter, the quarter of person of our data. So in this case, the middle person would be 50, the lower quarter, because there's 100 people, okay? So the median, the middle person is 50. The lower quartile is going to be 1/4 of 100, which in this case is going to be 25. So I've got to go across and down at 25 to get my lower quartile. So 30 is going to be in the middle, 25 is going to be there. Again, my axis isn't very good. If you were doing this on the actual exam paper, you'd have good lines. If you're doing it at home, it's not the end of the world if you're if you're slightly out, because I understand that you might not have square paper and things like that. So, but it's all about understanding the technique. So here, what have I got? I've got across down, so just under 50, maybe 48, I'd probably say there. So my lower quartile is equal to 48 minutes, is that? Brilliant. Now, part D says, now this is always towards the end of the question. Use your graph to find an estimate for the number of people who spent longer than 70 minutes in the coffee shop. So this is a little bit different now. We're not saying what's the median or what's the lower quartile. It's saying estimate the amount of people who spent longer in the shop. So the first thing I've got to do is I've got to find out how many people were in the shop for 70 minutes. So I'm going to go from 70, which is there on the bottom. Let's make sure you can see that. Okay, so I'm going to go up from 70, which is going to go to there. And I'm going to go across from 70, which is there. Okay, so that's roughly just under 70, is that? I'm going to say that that's about 68. Now, the thing that people get confused with here is they say, well, okay, 68 there, so it's going to be 68 people. But it's not asking the amount of people who are lower than this amount of time. It's asking for the amount of people who are above this time. So we're looking at this part here. The people who spent longer than 70 minutes in the shop. Well, the maximum number of people was 100. Everything below is 68, so this part here is going to be 100 subtract 68, which is equal to, there's actually 32 people which have a time longer than 70 minutes. So there are 32 people who have longer than 70 minutes. 32 people who spent longer than 70 minutes in the shop. Brilliant. Okay, 32 people spent longer than 70 minutes in the shop. And it's all about that extra part here. A lot of people will go 68, and you'll probably get 1 mark for that if you do that. But it's asking for the amount of people who, it's asking for how much longer. So from here to here is the part which is longer, isn't it? Which is going to go from up here, 32 up to 100. Okay, super. Now that's worth 6 marks. As I said, that's worth 7.5% of the whole of that paper, which definitely is nearly a full grade boundary for some. Okay, let's have a go at the next question. So I've only got a few questions here. Let's just check that. Between 36 and 38 people. So my range was probably off there, but that's just because my graph's not very good. Don't worry too much about that. If you're doing it on here, it's all about that technique. If your graph was better, you'd have a much more accurate graph. Here, 48, I got that one right, so that one's fine. It was just this graph here, I think. But that's okay. I'm not going to stress too much about that because we can't. It's all about understanding the method. And if I was to do this on an actual past paper, I'd have that in front of me, okay? So I'm not going to worry too much about that. Okay, so here you've got another question. So you can do pretty much up to C. The only part we can't do here is the interquartile range. So what I'm going to suggest, I'm going to put this up, pause now, and have a little go at that question there. Full GCSE question here from the IGCSE. Okay, let's have a go at this one together. Hopefully you've had a go at that. If you have had a go at it, and you just want to check the answer, maybe fast forward a little bit just to check the answer. I'm going to go through it step by step if you're not sure. Okay, so here we've got up to 60,000, isn't it? So we're looking at the income of people. So let's make this a bit wider than I did last time. I think we should probably be really quite comfortable with this now. So between 0 and the income is less than 10,000, and that's going to be 12 for that one. So what is this one? This is the income, and this one here is the cumulative frequency. So between 0 now and 20,000 is going to be the first two together. So 12 plus 41, 12 plus 41, which is equal to 53. Between 0 and 30,000 is going to be 12 plus 41 plus 25, which in this case is 78. Between 0 and 40,000 is going to be 12 plus 41 plus 25 plus 12, 12, which is 90. Between 0 and 50,000 is going to be all of these together now. So 12 plus 41 plus 25 plus 12 plus 6, which is 96. And then between 0 and 60,000, get in there now, is going to be all of these, 96 plus the 4, which is 100. Is that the same as our total amount of people? Yes, it is. Super, so I'm on track. So now I need to draw my table. I need to go up to 100, so I'm going to go up in 20s like I did before. So here it is. Started there, and I'm going up to 60. So I'm going to do 10s across, and I'm going to use the inches again. So all the way up, 6 across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then let's go up in 20s, I said. So 0, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. Obviously, you'd have a lot more space on the actual exam paper because they give you a full page of this. And this is our cumulative frequency. On this one here, it's my income, and I've gone up in 10s. So income, and that's going to be income. They've done it in thousands, so you've got to put that as well. So 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, 60,000, super. Now, what's my very first one? Well, I'm starting from 0, and there's going to be nothing below that. So I'm going from 0, 0, which is there. And then, remember, it's from the upper bound, always from that upper bound, okay? So with this one here, the upper bound, the first one is going to be 10,012. So 10,012 is going to be there roughly. The next one is going to be 20,041. 20,041 is there. 30,078. 30,078 is there. 40,090 is going to be halfway between those, so there. 50,096 is going to be there, and 60,100 is there. Draw my smooth curve. This is what we should be getting there. Super. Find the median of this. Well, hey diddle diddle, the median's in the middle. So I'm going to cross at 50 for this one. So cross at 50 and down for that. Hopefully my graph is a little bit more accurate this time. I think that's, what's that, about 21,000. So my median is about 21,000. Brilliant. Okay. And the interquartile range. Now, if you've seen the video on quartiles, you'll know what the interquartile range is. You know that the range is the upper quartile, take away the lower quartile. With this, again, it's the same, but you've got to find out what the upper quartile and lower quartile is. So you've got to find the upper quarter of the amount of people. Well, the quarter of 100 is 25, the lower quartile. We've already looked at that, haven't we? So 25 is going to be 30, down to there, 25. So we're crossing down for the lower quartile for that one. That's about 15, isn't it? Lower quartile, my lower quartile is 15,000. My upper quartile, if my lower quartile is the 25th person, halfway between it is going to be 50. The upper quarter is the 3/4 of 100, which in this case, you could do the lower quartile plus the median, which is going to be 75, or you can do 3/4 of 100, which is also 75. So 70 is in the middle, halfway between 70 and 70, 80 is going to be there. So the cross and down. Remember, it's all about the process here. If you don't get exactly the right answer, that's okay, because your graph might not be as accurate as you want it. And I'm going to say that there is, if that was 21, that's going to be closer to, that's going to be 26, isn't it? Upper bound, roughly 26. Upper bound is 26,000. Now, I could have quite easily done this on square paper. I do actually have some square paper. The reason I chose not to is because I know that not everybody's going to have square paper. So I wanted to show you that you could do this on lined paper as well. Okay, now my interquartile range is equal to my upper quartile take away my lower quartile, which in this case is equal to the 26,000, subtract 15,000, which is 11,000. And that's income. Absolutely super. Let's check those answers. There's a lot going on there. How many marks would that be? That's loads, isn't it? 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 3 is 6, plus 2 is 8. So that's 10% of the whole of that paper. 10% just on that one question. So, yeah, we've got, where are we at? Let's check the, so mine's a little bit lower. Again, that's because my graph isn't great. My median, 21,000. I'm a bit above that because my graph isn't great. My range, anywhere between 13 and 17. Again, my graph isn't great with that one. I'm not going to stress too much because I know that if I was to do this on a proper graph paper, you would get that. And it's all about the process here, understanding the process. Okay, so let me have a go at the last question we're going to look at now. We don't actually need to draw a graph for the last question, so let's move on to that. It is worth noting with this one that they do use straight lines on here. You can use a curve, as I said, or you can use straight lines. Let's look at that last question. Okay, find an estimate for the interquartile range. Now I'm going to make this one big. Okay, it's going to be tricky to do on here because it's on the computer screen, but we are going to have an attempt at it. So if you want to have a go at that first part yourself, I think you should be able to do it. So pause now and have a little go at that. Okay, now I'm going to be honest. Doing this on the screen without printing it off and without actually having it in front of you is tricky. I'm going to find it tricky. You'll probably find it tricky, but it's about understanding the process for when you do it. If you're doing this in school, you can print this off. If you're doing this now, there are some questions on my website, so have a look on there. There's loads of different questions about, so try and print some off if you can. If not, just make sure you understand the process and maybe draw it out yourself. Okay, so here we've got to find the interquartile range. Now we know the interquartile range is equal to your upper quartile subtract your lower quartile. Now to find the upper quartile is the upper quarter of the amount of people crossing down. The lower quartile is going to be the lower quartile. So you've got to see the total amount of people in this. And the total amount of, sorry, not people, in this case it's films, isn't it? So the upper quartile for the films, sorry, the total films is equal to 80. Okay, there's 80 films in total. My lower quartile of this is going to be a quarter of this, which is 20. And my upper quartile is going to be 3/4 of 80. So half is going to be 40 and the 20 is going to be 60 films. Now these aren't your values. These are where you've got to go across and down. So this is the tricky part now. So I've got to, on this screen, go across and down at 20. So I'm going to get really close to this. You might see my head quite close. 20 across and down on the screen is going to be, it's about 110. So 20 across and down is 110 minutes. 60 across and down, it's getting nice and close on that, is about 132, I think it is. So 132 minutes. And then I'm going to subtract them. So I'm going to go across and down, and that gives me 110. Across and down, that gives me 132. My interquartile range is the upper quartile. Take away the lower quartile. I'm just going to check that lower quartile again. I think it's a bit more than that, actually. I think it's more like 114. So 132, take away 113. I'm probably going to be a miles out, but that's because I'm just using my eye. If you were doing this, you draw it across and down, draw it across and down. So 132, subtract 114 is equal to 18 in this case. 18 minutes. Super. This last part is the reason I've put this question in, because it's very similar to the question that we had before. However, it's asking for a percentage. Now, these questions come up all the time, okay? It's worth 3 marks, so loads of marks. If you think about some of the harder questions which are worth 3 marks, this one here, I think simple if you know how to do it. And this has come up. This came up in the IGCSE, the EdXL paper in 2015. So this is part B. It says, find an estimate of the 80 films that lasted more than 125 minutes. So with this one here, you need to first of all find out how many are more than 125 minutes. So I'm going to go across from 125, I'm going to go up. Let's use my ruler on the screen. Up are 125, and that there is about 50. Okay, so 50 films if you go across. Okay, now remember, it's once the films which are more than that. So it's between 50. So 50 is the amount which are below that. If you want to see the amount which are above that, I need to do 80 take away that. So between 80 and 50, like we did in question 2. So between 80 and 50, which I know is 30 films. Okay? So then I need to work it out as a proportion and write it as a fraction. So it's going to be 30 out of 80 times by 100. So this is the amount of films which are longer than 125 minutes. This is the proportion of films, so 30 out of 80. And then to find the percentage, I times that by 100. So 30 out of 80 times by 100 is going to be 37.5%. Now, I'm probably miles out with that. I haven't actually looked at the answers just yet. And that's because I've just done it by eye on the screen. Now, the reason I'm doing that now, I could have quite easily printed this off, but I wanted to help you because you're going to only have the screen at home now as well. Okay, so I wanted to show you that I was doing exactly the same thing this year and I've got the same issue. So let's have a look at this. This is worth 5 marks. Let's see how far off I was. So I was a little bit off on that first one on the range, 20 and 21 minutes. Whoa, that's not bad, is it? Okay, I'm happy with that. 37.5, anything between 37.5 and 38. I'm really happy with that. So my eye's not too bad. A little bit off on this one. Okay. All right. So I've got some questions here for you to have a go at. I'll make it big for you. So pause now and have a little go at these questions. Pause now and have a go at those. There is a second worksheet. So I'll give you this one as well. So here's your next one. So have a go at these questions. Now with most of these, you should be able to draw them out. I've made it so that you have to draw it out. I think it's only that last one where you've got to use your eye to try and work it out. Everything else you need to draw. So you should be able to do these at home quite easily. Okay, so here's your answers. So mark those in green. Mark them in green. Okay, so thank you for watching this video on cumulative frequency. I know that that one was quite tricky because I didn't have enough space on my graph, and if you're doing it, draw your graph out as big as possible. The bigger your graph is, the more accurate it's going to be, okay? So do make sure you're having a go at drawing these out. Remember, the only way to learn maths is to do it. All of those questions at the end there were ones you could draw out, so you should be able to draw it nice and accurately. So have a lovely day, and thank you for watching this video.